Welcome to Emotional Sobriety. Tom, Allen, and I are back. Since the last episode, we did more of a perspective on the year 2023. For the new episode in a new year, we thought we'd do a prospective, looking ahead and talking about what we hope for in 2024 and how we square that with the principles of emotional sobriety. But first, I thought I'd check in with you guys. How's it going, Allen, Tom?
I'm doing good. It's like actually, I feel like I've turned on a personal note, just in terms of my health and feeling good. I've turned a corner in the last week and feel better than I have in a long time. So happy to be here with you guys. And is prospective an actual word? I'm an English major. I should know this, but is it?
It's the highest form of spective. It's the most professionalized version of it. No, I'm just kidding. I have no idea if it's a word.
Well, Alan's the one that first used it, right? So
Yeah.
he has to be the one to tell us this is a real word.
It's a look. It's a
Is it
looking.
like Scrabble? Is this a
All right,
real
here
word?
it is. Here's the word. Here's the
All right.
definition:
All
the
right.
possibility or likelihood of some future event occurring.
Okay.
Prospect
I
or
like it.
prospective, right?
There you
Prospective.
go.
I like it a lot. Okay.
Well, I'll start if you guys don't mind.
Well, how's Alan doing?
Oh yeah, sorry, Jesus.
I'm in a lot of pain, man. I've got this issue going on with my left hip. When I was 13 years old, I had a slipped epiphysis. Try to say that with no saliva in your
You
mouth.
had a what?
Slipped
Slip.
epiphysis.
Oh my
Uh,
God. I wouldn't have that just because I couldn't pronounce it. It's like
So it's when the ball of your femur
Mhm.
slips out of the socket of your hip, a
Ugh.
slip epiphysis. So what they did when I was, and what it did, it created a tremendous pain in my left knee. I mean, I was limping at 12 years old, went to all these docs, and they kept looking at my knee, and nobody could figure it out. And it wasn't my knee; it was my hip. And
Yeah.
the pain in my knee was what they call referred pain.
Mhm.
So the pediatric orthopedic surgeon put 3 pins in my hip, put them in on an angle so it seated the ball up into the socket so it wouldn't come out. Right? They were like
Wow.
screws, right? These
Yeah.
long screws. Like,
Hmm.
well, that was 58 years ago. So lately, I've been feeling this pain. I thought that I pulled a hip flexor because it was right here
Yeah.
up on my hip. And I was going to a chiropractor for 4 weeks and no improvement, getting a lot of massage. And then I said, I've got to go see an orthopedic surgeon to see what's going
Right.
on. Some pictures of the hip. So two problems. I've got severe arthritis in that hip. I'm bone on bone.
Hmm.
That's part of the problem. The
Hmm.
bigger problem in terms of the acute pain is one of the screws has worked its way down. And now every time I move, it's scraping the inside of my socket on my hip.
Damn, that hurts all the way down here in Nashville, man. When you say it,
It hurts all the way in Nashville. It hurts all the way down my
bless you,
legs.
bless.
Man,
I started to say bless your heart, but bless your hip, man, and your
oh my
knee.
God, man. So, he looked at me and he says, look, I could give you a cortisone shot. I'll give you some relief, but then I couldn't do surgery for a long time. He says, you need a total hip replacement. So I'm scheduled for surgery on February 21st to get a total hip.
All right. I have not had anybody that I know who's had a hip replacement who didn't just swear by it.
Mine's a little complicated because they've got to get rid of those screws.
Yeah.
And what he said was, from what it looks like in the x-rays, they're very close together. So he's going to have to get a drill bit that's hollowed out and drill them out. So it's
Wow.
going to leave quite a hole in my leg. Now, hopefully that he's going to be able to put some stuff around it to strengthen the bones, so I'm not going to have any problems. So it's not going to be your typical hip replacement because of
Hmm.
that complication
Hmm.
or that issue
Yeah.
that they have to deal with.
Yeah.
But he still was pretty confident that he says, look, the big difference is going to be instead of you being in surgery for 45 minutes, I'm going to have to be in there for an hour and a half with you.
Hmm. Okay.
So look, if he can fix that, now the problem I'm having with this, I cannot sleep. I did not go to bed until about 3:30 last night, and I got up at about 7:30 this morning. The
So
pain,
this hurts whether you're moving or not. That's
I'm in.
man, that's the worst. I had some serious back pain many years ago, but I realized talking to other people, I was blessed because whenever I would sit still or lie down, the pain was relieved. And I didn't have that experience where basically you're hurting no matter what. I can't even imagine that.
Oh, I can hardly find a place to be comfortable. So,
Mm,
I've been very, very cautious about the medication I'm using, but the truth is, even when I've tried to do tramadol and I just do a half of whatever the dose is that they gave me, it still doesn't even touch the pain.
wow.
And they've given me a few sleeping pills, some Ambien that I take every now and again with it, but I don't want to do that.
I know.
I want to be cautious about that stuff. So
Hmm.
the last few nights, I've just tried to do it with melatonin, and the melatonin can't put me to sleep. The pain's too great.
Wow.
So, I'm just gonna count on, maybe every 3 days or so, I'll use a half of an Ambien to try to get about 6, 7, 8 hours sleep if I can, and try to just limp through literally and physically and psychologically until I get to the surgery. So
And when is the
that's
surgery? In February?
February 21st. Now I'm trying to get it moved up. And
I was going to say that doesn't sound like long for me, but if I was in pain, it would seem like a long time
well,
away.
I'm ready to go next Monday. I'm telling you,
Yeah, yeah, no.
Monday wouldn't be soon enough, right? Can I go in this afternoon? I mean, it's that kind of
Mhm.
a thing. So that's what I'm dealing with. And look, one of the challenges of that is that when I get, what do we say? Be careful of halt, hungry, angry, lonely, and tired, right?
Mhm.
So I'm definitely tired, and I've got to really pay attention to regulating myself and really being careful. Surprisingly, I'm doing a pretty good job with that right now. I've been really monitoring my tone of voice and stuff like that with the
Mhm.
girls. I think I'm doing okay. I'm for some reason, I'm very, very aware. Awareness helps so much. I got to tell you,
Mhm.
in terms of self-regulation, I think sometimes we underestimate the importance of just being aware of yourself and listening to your tone of voice, what you're saying, how you're saying it, and really tuning in. And I've been doing that lately, and it's really helped to monitor myself that way a lot.
That's such a big deal. It's like when and probably you do this as well, Alan. When I'm working with couples, a lot of times I feel like I'm a director of a play or something because I'm just giving direction about how to deliver the lines. And very often the lines themselves are fine, what they're saying to each other. But I'm saying, do it this way. And sometimes I'll just do like a director would do, and I'll just kind of show them what I want them to do. And now I did have one. I have one of those little movie clackers. What are those called? Patrick, you would know
Yeah, we call them the sticks.
the sticks. Okay, I have those in my office, and so that one guy I know pretty well. I said to him not too long ago. I said, okay, let's redo that scene. And I said, only this time, play it as if you're not an asshole. And I know this guy very well. He smiled at me and he delivered the line perfectly. He did a beautiful job of, and I didn't ask him not to be an asshole. I just asked him to play it as if he were not an asshole. I told him that later. I said I wasn't asking you to stretch too far, but it was amazing how much just delivering the line differently can make a difference. And I love the idea that you realize that some of what you can do is simply behavioral. It's like I just need to watch my volume, my tone, and sometimes
Right.
just my speed with which I respond. Just put some space in there because we're so reactive when we're in pain.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
my understanding of emotional sobriety or how it's about bringing the best possible attitude. And when I think about your physical discomfort and pain, Alan, and when I think about, your cancer treatment last
Hmm.
year, Tom, me stoved up in the hospital, like, I don't know, tell me what you think of this, but for me, emotional sobriety, it includes the like giving ourselves the latitude to not
Yep.
have the best attitude sometimes and to feel like shit and to just like not be to kind of have like a chaotic brain, you know, in the
Well, it's
context of,
realistic.
yeah.
You factor in the circumstance, and that is that's the realistic part of the circumstance. It's not like, because otherwise what we're doing is treating ourselves as if we have too much in the past, which is I shouldn't be feeling this way. Well, tough. I am feeling this way. So
Yeah.
I need to figure that out. And basically that's a great example where that's not giving yourself a break where you're letting yourself off the hook. That's giving yourself a break so that you have a better chance of actually making an improvement and being better in a relationship. I gotta, I gotta realize I'm going to be short with people right now because of this. So I really need to put extra effort into it. It's really compassion for yourself.
Yeah, that's right.
I've got to call myself out. So okay, I think I've tracked it. This is the third week in a row that we've done a show where I've kind of been shooting from the hip a little bit in terms of like getting our whatever our like narrative theme is for the episode going
Mm-hmm,
before
mm-hmm.
Alan has had time to check in, before you've had time to check in, and I just got a full disclosure. I think it just comes from like an anxiety I have about like earning my keep as a producer, or like feeling like the way that I can show up the best in this show is to kind of ramrod the conversation in a direction when that's not, I don't think that's really like what the essence of the show is. And for whatever reason, I think lately I've just been a little bit jumpy with all that. And I usually fix it in the editing, but I'll probably leave this little gaff in just to let everyone know that I'm working through some stuff.
Well, I'll just speak for myself, but yeah, definitely. Uh, let's not leave Alan out of the check-ins. That's a good thing. Make a note of that. But don't stop shooting from the hip, because I think you do a good job with that. And I think, and I know, I think we both do, but I know for sure I respond really well to that, and I like the spontaneity of the conversation.
Yeah, me too.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm just gonna ask Tom first, like, what do you want to do this year?
Eat. Eat food. I've been using this feeding tube for the last several months because of my throat, and I'm looking at the possibility of getting the feeding tube out within the next. I don't know if I'm being realistic, but the next 3 weeks or less, maybe. And my taste isn't back. My whole mouth and throat is messed up. But I know I'm moving in that direction. I want a Subway sandwich. That's what I want this year. That's. I mean, I don't know why that's the one, but it's like I just landed on a Subway sandwich one time and thought I need to have that back. So, and what that represents for me is just getting back to normal. Absence makes the heart grow fonder. Take away the stuff that's been taken away, and boy, I can feel grateful for the smallest things. It's like, so I'm really looking forward to just getting back into to well, I've been saying it on here for a while, but I just want to be a normal boy. That's what I want for 2024.
But it's amazing how much we take those basic things for granted, Tom,
Well,
isn't it?
it's
Like,
impossible not to, because if we were tracking everything we needed to be grateful for every day, we would be completely absorbed with that. I always use the example of like, so instead of beating ourselves up for not being grateful, sometimes it's like I always say, like, nobody walks around feeling grateful for being able to swallow. I do now because I was having trouble swallowing, or even
yeah,
just I've used an example in the past. Even if you just have a sore throat, and then
yeah.
for at least a day or two after you had the sore throat, you're just grateful for swallowing, and being able not to have that pain. So I think I like the idea that we just scan for those opportunities to experience gratitude.
The way I relate to that is my knee is just starting to bend a little bit. I'm doing a bunch of physical therapy on it, and I'm walking around on it and
Good for
doing
you.
exercises. Thank you. But I would have I didn't think anything of it, my mobility, before the accident. And now
Yeah.
I think everything of it. And I also desire to get back to a normal, move back to where I was living before. it's going to take some time. You know what I mean? Like, I think another dimension of this is to not try and fast track the return to normal past what my reasonable capabilities are, because I think that's where it gets into expectations, right? And just kind of imposing something on top of my life that it can't really accommodate just yet. So yeah, I feel you on that. Like and Subway sandwich is a pretty good go-to, I gotta say.
Yeah. Well, what just occurred to me is and you guys tell me if I'm overemphasizing this, but it's like I just realized you and I both just use the word normal in a way that we take it for granted, and that normal has an objective meaning. It's like, it's like what do I mean by normal? What do you mean by normal? Like how I was before is what we mean. It's like the truth is, if we're really living fully present in this moment, whatever you and I are experiencing is our normal. I am not eating a Subway sandwich today. That's my normal today. You are able to drive your car a little bit. You're learning to do that. You're learning to bend your knee a little bit. That's your normal right now. So if we're really fully in the present, we're not, because in a way we're not doing it with like great dissatisfaction, but we're still doing the human thing where we're setting up a comparison in which we're dissatisfied with the present moment.
Can I
You
say
know.
something to that real quick? Because
Mhm.
I'm really responding to it, which is that in 2023, in the run up to my accident, I
Mhm.
was bouncing around like a bee everywhere. I mean, I went on multiple plane trips. I went to Thailand, I went to New York City, I went
Mhm.
to Boston. There's probably other places I went that I'm forgetting now. Oh, I went to Las Vegas to watch something at the Sphere. And in between all that time, I was doing a bunch of art stuff for me. I was doing a bunch of little professional things and trying to figure out like what kind of career I'm going to have. And then in the backdrop of all that, my relationship with Maddie was ending. And I was doing the therapy and the different things to try and hold on to that, but then ultimately ending that relationship. And anyway, like I say all this as kind of like just to kind of at the moment I slipped and fell from the rocks. Um, I think that there was a lack of presence there, and that is definitely something I've identified in my life, and it absolutely ties into my addiction. That
Wow.
I'm always just like a little bit checked out. I'm always kind of like not sure. I'm not fully inhabiting the moment
Not
because
always,
I
not
don't.
always. I'm
Yeah,
picking, but not always.
yeah,
You
not
can
always.
be. You can be. Yeah.
Right, and so I'll just wrap up by saying this is that this year I have one travel thing planned, and that is to go see Herb and Allen speak in London at this Friendly Circle Berlin conference
Hmm.
that's coming up. And besides that, I am going to try and be present. And that doesn't mean not trying things and not being faithful in my work and not, approaching my life with a degree of ambition. But I think that like I just need to kind of not get over my skis about like what my life is supposed to be and just really try and be more
Beautiful.
receptive to kind of like what's in the moment. So that's kind of what you made me think of.
Maybe the way the distinction is, instead of using the word normal, talk about what is. It's that when we focus on what is, it's not about whether it's normal, not normal. It's just what is going on. And it doesn't matter
That's it.
what kind of label you put on it, whether you put
Hmm.
if you put a
Hmm.
label on it, you probably make it harder to deal with what is. I mean,
Hmm.
that's the truth of it is. But I think the way that we use normal in this context is the expectation part of it.
Yep.
See, we expect, I think I told you guys this with what I've gone through this past year. I expected you just somehow, copy today, cut it, and then paste it in tomorrow as though it's
Hmm.
just going to continue on. And it's such a unconscious expectation.
Hmm.
If you said, "Hey, Alan, you're doing that," I'd say, "God, that's not a great idea." I mean, there's no room for things being different and changing, right?
Hmm.
So it's very interesting, how we deal with all of that stuff. So my hope for this year, a couple of things is, we appreciate the feedback we get on this show, and whether it's something you like or don't like. We want to hear about it. And you're welcome to address any of us. If I say something you don't like, send me an email. You have my email address. If Patrick says something, or send it to Patrick and he'll share it with us and just direct it to whoever you've got the beef with. Look, I'm always open to feedback and looking at what's going on. And the same with, it's a funny thing. It's like if we don't take things personal, it doesn't mean that we can't learn from feedback,
Right.
right? The way somebody communicates what they don't like, what's going on, is who they are. But there may be some gems in it that we can take a look at that might help us be the person we want to be. But once again, I'm not here to live up to anybody's expectations. Neither are you guys. And nobody's here to live up to my expectations. We're talking about how we feel, what we're doing, and how we're trying to figure things out in our life. And I want to stay centered in that this year.
I
Is
tell you
to
what, something you said really is important. I think is because I think it's something as simple as that we repeat often is don't take things personally. It's it's simple, not easy, and it's like and even defining it. But what you just said is, and I'm just going to take a stab at paraphrasing, is that it's just because I don't take something personally doesn't mean I don't take it seriously. Doesn't mean I'm not listening to you. Doesn't mean I'm not taking you seriously. It's like, or because I think a lot of times when we talk about not taking things personally, people can misunderstand that we're saying don't care what anybody thinks. Which absolutely is a problem. It's like now there may be people in our lives that, have a track record with us where I go like, there are some people I know that basically I don't really care what they think because I don't, I don't trust what they have to say anyway. I don't take what they're saying really seriously. But those people are very rare in my life. I mean, most everybody else, there's a reason. And I don't want to expect other people give us feedback and do it perfectly. So the truth is we're not going to be perfect. They're not going to be perfect. And so the idea is not taking it personally really is just an internal process of not taking it on, in those hurtful ways that, at least in my life, that should monster has taken over the whole thing and wrecked it. Or I've gone the opposite way and just become ridiculously defensive. And how dare you? So and I just want to say for the audience, if I say things that you don't like, let Alan and Patrick know.
I love you, man. You do that. So that's good. That's right. It's safe with me if I say something
That's
you don't
right.
like, Patrick and Tom. That's good. That's good, Tom. That's funny.
Mm-hmm.
But the other thing that we talked about last Thursday night that I thought really was something that was important. We talk about it all the time. What the other person is doing is not about who you are, it's about who they are.
That's
Well,
right.
the flip side of that is what I'm doing is not about who you are, it's about who I am.
That's right.
And so that same thing applies. And I think it's always good when we're talking about not taking things personally and understanding what it means is it's telling us about the other person. Also, how we're reacting is not saying anything about the other person, it's saying something about us. And it's
Mm-hmm.
always important for us to keep in mind that these things apply, and that's what I love about these things. We're not just talking about who everybody else is. This is also about how we function and what's going on for us. So it applies for us. Everything we say about like not taking what the other person's doing personally, it's also a good reminder that what we're doing is not about the other person, it's about who we are. So
Mm-hmm.
that's a very good thing to keep in mind. So one of the things I want to do this year is like with that. See, that's something new we're talking about at the end of,
Mm-hmm.
really at the beginning of this year. And this year, I want to start to extend the conversation. We've been doing an amazing job. I think rarely do our programs repeat, subject matter. We've been pretty good at continuing to find things. And that's something I want to really focus on this year is really looking at emotional sobriety and continuing to push the boundaries of it, extend the boundaries of it, increase my awareness of it and my consciousness of it. And to do that and to do that, we expand that consciousness in those listeners that we have this year. So that's one of the goals I have. I'm really excited about the Thursday night meeting that continues to be strong. We had 165 people in it the other night, which is fantastic, from all over the world, which is great. And, there's some other exciting things coming up this year, right? I am hoping that we're going to be able to do that emotional sobriety retreat over at my house in September this year,
Mhm.
where, we're gonna, I'm gonna try to get a permit so we can have about 40 campers on my property. I got 4 acres here. You can bring your tent and camp out. We'll be barbecuing, and I'm gonna have a brand new swimming pool that's gonna be opened up, and we're gonna have a stage for some bands playing and for us to have speakers up, and we'll have some workshops, some breakouts and stuff like that. So it's gonna be a wonderful weekend. And
Well,
hopefully we'll be.
you could sleep in a tent if you want to, but I'm sleeping in your bed, Alan.
I know you are. Yeah, you are.
Okay, whether you're
Tom,
there or not, I'm there. It's like
we're going to be handing out copies of Marcus Aurelius's Meditations.
I'll have copies of Marcus Aurelius. But I tell you what, one of the things you just said, I love this, is taking it deeper. And because I had already just made a note here to myself that what we were talking about too, about the not taking it personally. I'm thinking in terms of the work I do with communication with folks, is one of the things I work with people on a lot, and that I actually never thought of it specifically in terms of the language of emotional sobriety, but it absolutely fits the skill set. I mean, yeah, it really is a skill set to develop where you're able during conversations to keep your defenses down, because
Mhm.
defense begets defense. So if one of us is we're in a conversation with each other, the truth is, beyond even our conscious awareness, if I respond, if I react with a defensiveness, it's very likely that your next line is going to be defensive back. Now, it doesn't mean we have to stay there. We need to be able to manage that and get and I help people try to keep their defenses down. But one of the points I wanted to make is that I think is very connected to emotional sobriety, and that's emotional sobriety. What I'm thinking we need to talk about is what is good communication and emotional sobriety, because there's a lot of tenets of communication that really do fit into our definition of emotional sobriety. And one of them is the absolute need for clarification and good communication. That we do not, we talk about you don't have to be perfect. The truth is, if a conversation is going to be spontaneous, back and forth, we need to have our defenses down enough. We need to be not taking things personally to the point where we have an opportunity to clarify. It's like, wait a minute, I think you misunderstood something I said. Let me go back and clarify this. Or I might ask you, it's like, I don't think I understand what you're saying, or I find myself kind of offended by it. So can you clarify that? And it's amazing if you can, and you can't clarify unless your defenses. You see, I'm using my hands to describe this constantly. It's keeping those defenses down. Uh, and when you can do that, even a couple of extra moves in a conversation with a couple, where you can keep the defenses down so that they can clarify a couple of things, makes all the difference in the world in terms of communication. Because all it takes is one just reflex defensive statement, sets up the defense, and then we've all been there, and they were off. And most of us have been in a relationship where we even know that it's screwed up now, but we continue the conversation for the next 3 hours. It's silly, but we do it because we feel desperate. And so anyway, so that my 2 cents is, let's do good communication, emotional sobriety, good communication. Yeah.
Yeah. I think one of the other things I'm hoping for this year, Tom, is to finally start to collaborate with you on some of the writing now that I'm coming out of my depression, and
Mm-hmm.
to us to get together and maybe even spend a weekend together at some point and really get
Okay.
focused on the things that we want to do. I'd love to do that. Um, one of the things that you and I talked about, Patrick, was at some point doing a documentary on emotional sobriety, and to
Oh,
see if we
cool.
can some grants, right, to get some money in to shoot that documentary. So I want to talk to you about doing that, because I think there's some money out there that we could probably tap into, and get get some support in doing a real good documentary, because I think that it's becoming now probably the next wave in recovery if it continues to build like it's building. Like I said, this month, the AA Grapevine, a whole article, or the whole Grapevine is dedicated to emotional sobriety. Now, when I read it, I'm a bit disappointed because I think that they're still not integrating some of what Bill talked about in understanding what it is. And you'll see that if you guys pick up the Grapevine, and we might want to do that. We might want to take that Grapevine someday and sit down and go through some of the stories and talk about them. And it's not that the stories aren't inspirational, they are. But I think sometimes that they miss describing what is happening there and understanding it in the context of emotional sobriety. So they put it more into, I think, the typical language that people use in recovery program, right? And that's a bit mysterious, because I'm not being specific enough. But I really think let's plan a couple future meetings of each of us getting our hands on it. I subscribe to the Grapevine, so I get one each month. But you guys order one, and then let's read the stories and go through some of the stories, and then let's just talk about them.
Well, what that is it's not about, and that's the other thing I think it's about emotional sobriety too. It's getting out of the all or none is always good for most often good. And the idea of what you're describing is you're not saying, oh, they're doing it wrong, so let's do this. But we're talking about, we've been exploring this together. We've been putting our heads together for quite a while now to put this on here. And at least I can say for myself, my concept and my understanding of emotional sobriety has deepened over these years, and it's like, so what we're talking about is take those kinds of things and let's just look at them closer, deeper. And it actually goes back to my previous point, which is clarification. Let's see what this actually means. What do you think about this? And it's like, yeah, it's not, we always talk about, you don't substitute, you don't subtract, but you add. That's what we talk to our clients about a lot of times. And this is what we do with these concepts. It's like, let's learn more about it. Let's look closer at it. And I love that.
I was able to communicate that in the way I did. I'm not, I think it's wonderful the Grapevine has come out with the title. Even just the title is wonderful. So I'm not critical at all of it. I just want to extend the conversation.
Yes.
Is really what I want to do.
What's funny is just before you brought up kind of these great ideas for future shows and an emotional sobriety documentary, I was going to ask you something about going into the new year, and like my concern about myself being right-sized, and then I reflected that like one of the things I think has really been like a help in my recovery and is really kind of like it's a strong infusion of hope that I've had since the beginning, which is that like Alan, you've never discouraged me from dreaming big, and you've never suggested that that we must proceed through our recovery as kind of like sick people, or as like or as people that like we need to kind of like go after the things we want in life with kind of like bubble wrap on. And I think like, whereas, you need a healthy dose of caution, you need like a healthy dose of humility as you proceed through life and go after the things you want. Like I want to do things like make documentaries. I want to do things like produce shows. And I'm loath to use the word content because that always feels like kind of you're reducing whatever the thing is that you're making into a commodity. But like I've always wanted to be a storyteller. But then again, I also like to have my knee bend. So I'm kind of trying to find somewhere in my normal where those two things can be satisfied,
Wow. Yeah, it's cool, man. Well, I'm excited about this coming year. I mean, we got a lot of fun things coming up. I'm going to be doing a weekend retreat at the Wilson House before we go over to Europe. And I'm hoping that a few other things in Europe I have that Gestalt therapy group, and I've been joined by some people that knew of Walter but never met him. And they reached out to me to connect, and they've joined my training program. So I may be doing a workshop in Czechoslovakia this year.
So, oh, wow. These are connections from Kempler, right?
Yeah, from Kempler, from way back.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's very cool.
like they're distant relatives of yours.
All right, guys. Well, great show, and I look forward to our future.
We don't say Happy New Year now. We say, let's all look ahead to the next 12 months. We're going to crush it. Crush it and not be crushed. That's the goal.
Crush it, not be crushed, and go Bears.
Tend your life, tend your myth. Cultivate your narrative with whomever you